let's dive in. So, today we are talking about something very special, and that is the fact that you are stronger than you know. So, again, this comes from the list at the end of my chapter in Becoming an Unstoppable Woman Mompreneur. And it's one of the lessons that I've learned during my entrepreneurial journey. So, oftentimes we are faced with challenges, whether it's in entrepreneurship, motherhood, life. We are faced with challenges that feel like they might be too big for us, that they might just be the end of us, that we can't do it and we will not make it through. And I am certain that you can make it through because you are stronger than you know. I don't say this lightly. I say this from obviously personal experience. So before I ask you to believe me, I'm going to give you some background. A couple little stories, okay? So I would call myself an accidental entrepreneur. I got into entrepreneurship because it sounded like a good idea and my dad really wanted to own a business. I always liked, the idea of working for myself and the idea of being able to create freely and problem solve and grow things. I liked creating. I like the messy beginning, right? For me, I love helping with startups because I love that messy beginning, problem solving, finding solutions, figuring it all out. I don't do so well at the big growth bureaucracy part because it's just not my jam. So I got into entrepreneurship because my dad wanted to own a business and we found this little flavor company. We decided to buy it. And I ran it and, grew it from 200,000 in sales to 2.5 million in sales. Hi, Val. In 5 years. My whole family worked there, right? My dad didn't until later, but my mom worked there, my sister worked there, my sister's best friend worked there. It was this great adventure. And, the whole time I didn't think I could do it. Oh, I don't know about building another plant. I don't know if I can get financing. I don't know how to put together a steam jacketed kettle with a boiler and all of this stuff and create a plant, but somehow we did it. And the thing is at the time, it was okay because my dad was there. And as long as my dad was there, I could do it because I had him. And so he was like my security blanket, right? I didn't have to worry too much about it because he knew more, he had experience, he could help me. He was always there, to guide me and mentor me and help me get through it. So fast forward, 5 years, and exactly, give or take 5.5 years ago, my dad died. It was sudden. He died in a car accident. And one day I came home and he was gone. And I will tell you that I did not think I could go on. I didn't think I could do it. That was it, right? Like my strength was gone. Who was I? It was one of those moments that you're quite certain the world is going to consume you. And if you don't die in that moment, you're like, well, I wish the world would open up and just swallow me. But it didn't, as the world doesn't. And I kept going. And I did the best I could. We all did the best we could. But a year after that, our business went bankrupt. I came in one day and the landlord was changing the locks, and that was that. And again, that was my biggest fear. That was, when it comes to small business ownership, my biggest fear was that, going bankrupt. And it happened. And I, again, thought I was going to die. The world should at least swallow me this time because that's the least the world could do. And it didn't. And somehow I made it through that too. And I made it through that and went on to grow a mortgage business that I'm very successful at. And from there, I went on to publish 3 books, which have done well. And from there, I, have my mompreneur coaching and women's wealth advocacy business. I've got a podcast, a TV show, this Facebook group, coaching programs, a new anthology coming out in November. But I will tell you that at the time, I did not think I was strong enough to get through any of that. But I was. Because we all have this reservoir of strength deep down inside of us, this fire that longs for us to live and grow and keep going and continue to strive for our best life. And we have this strength that carries us. And so when we're faced with insurmountable odds, when we're faced with fear, when we're faced with this idea that we have to do something that feels so much bigger than ourselves, we can feel so small, and it can be hard. But I'm telling you, you're stronger than you know, right? We have a way of rising to the challenge. Look at moms and birthing children and raising children and even just being pregnant. Let's be honest, like, there is a strength inside of us that is so powerful. We just need to be pushed to get there sometimes, I guess. So how can you call upon that inner strength or discover that inner strength when it feels too big? Well, my first piece of advice is don't look at the whole picture, right? Everybody says, see big picture, look at the whole thing. Sometimes you can't. Sometimes it's too big and too overwhelming, and you just have to look at today. What can I do today? Right? I know for me, my kids were a great motivation during those 2 trying times because I had to be a mom. And so it motivated me to get up and live that day and do what I needed to do that day. And it gave me strength to smile and laugh, right? What could I do in that moment? Don't worry about tomorrow. You worry about tomorrow. Take it one day at a time. Remember, when it comes to things that aren't life or death, the anticipation is actually far worse than the actual event, right? So, for example, with small business bankruptcy, my fear of it was bigger than the actual occurrence. Yeah, was it awful? Of course it was. Did I have to do things that made me uncomfortable? 100%. Did I cry a lot? Of course I did. But I did it all and I got through it and I'm still intact and I'm still here. But it was the fear that was terrifying. One thing I learned when I was at 40 Years of Zen is this idea of actually going to the worst case scenario. So think about what you're most afraid of and say, okay, what's the worst case scenario? And then when you get there and find the worst case scenario, look for the gift, right? What is it that you can discover and learn from this outcome that is so terrifying? What can we draw from it? Right? Because if we can learn to find the gift in truly horrible situations, then it gives us strength. And it's not to say that I was ever really good at finding the gift of why my father died or the gift in his death, but I was able to find the gift in having experienced his life. Right? And that is a gift. So it's not just, toxic positivity, but if you can look for the gift, even hindsight. I mean, sometimes you have to look for the gift in hindsight, but if you're doing the worst case scenario and you're trying to get through, try to see if you can find a gift. And finally, accept that things are what they are, right? Our resistance is what creates the friction and causes us pain. If we accept what is and then work for what we desire. If we fight against what is, then we're just like what we resist persist, right? We're just fighting against what is. But if we accept what is and then visualize what we would like and then look for the solutions to get there versus, right? Don't focus on fighting something, focus on creating. Because when you create, what no longer fits will fade away and cease to exist, right? So I promise you that you are stronger than you know. And whatever you are facing, you can get through it. That's not to say it won't be hard. And it's not to say that it won't challenge, stretch, and just take you places you maybe never wanted to go, but you can do it. And on the other side, you will be stronger. So the moral of that story, I guess, is just believe in yourself. Like, I know there are times when it's so hard to look and say, I'm enough to do this. But you are. You really, really are. And this goes in life, in business, in parenting, in mothering, in everything. You can do it. And I'll believe in you first. So I hope that was valuable and insightful. I would, as always, love to hear your comments, your feedback. Connect with me in the group, hit me up in the DMs. And as always, remember that the woman you see when you look in the mirror is exactly what a successful entrepreneur looks like. You well.